Take note of how we look, because everywhere you go, people are watching. And they're noticing things that you may not think about. Also, we're going to look a little different later on in this video. I'm going to teach you a few things about gray man theory in the United States, part 2. In strength and conditioning, when I was a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Utah, we had a thing called the look test. And the first thing that people think about when they see a strength and conditioning coach, although probably the most important factor of the job is knowledge, the first thing that people look at is how you look and whether you look like you know how to work out. For example, we had a sports scientist there who was probably the most intelligent guy there, PhD guy, super smart guy, but he probably could never be a strength and conditioning coach because he was our sports scientist, and he was a nerdy looking guy. Really cool guy, really well versed in all things strength and conditioning, but couldn't pass the look test. When I go out of the house and I look like this, I've got all my tattoos showing, I'm 6'3", 240. There's certain places where I wouldn't be able to walk in looking like this. There's other places where I'll go and women will kind of clutch their purses tight, or, things of that nature, the stereotypical, who is this guy type thing. And I'm going to try and get you to think about how you dress and how much the way that you look affects the way that others treat you. Unfortunately, it's not always accurate, but it is how it is. People are very judgmental. By now, you guys know my story, my history, and the resulting skill set that I've developed through the trials and tribulations that I've been in my life and through various life experiences. Now we're going to take it a step further by going gray and affecting the way that others perceive us, the way that others treat us, the way that others in our surrounding environment see us or don't see us. The way that we do this is by controlling the variables that we can control. We're going to get a lot into that. But the first thing to think about and remember and consider is what variables that you can control and what variables that you can't control. Don't try and change what you can't change, but really get good at controlling the variables that you can. You may need these skills in life in a much more normal way or mundane way than the way that I've had to use these skills. These skills have saved my life a couple of times, both in the United States and outside the United States. And I'm going to try and share these skills with you guys because they could save your life too, or I'm going to also show you how they can just make your life a lot easier for an everyday person. You probably won't have to go through the things that I've had to go through to learn these skills, and I hope you don't. By sharing this video with you, it gives you the opportunity to learn them in a much easier way. One of the ways that possibly these skills might help you is by interactions with police. And a lot of people who have interactions with police come across as a criminal or look in some certain stereotypical kind of a criminal way, and they make problems worse for themselves. So one of the ways that you can have this help you is, for example, if you get pulled over for speeding, who do you think is going to be more likely in this situation to get a speeding ticket, me or her? That's just one way that everyday perception of reality becomes reality. Everybody's reality is actually a little bit different because reality is only perception. Any kind of time that you're having an interaction with authority figures, doesn't have to just be police, but that's an example of interaction with police where you can have that situation come out in your favor just by presenting yourself in a certain way. Whether you're doing right or not in that situation, a lot of it is just perception. So we'll get into a little later about how clothing and look, and it can even come down to your walk and your gait and just the way you hold yourself, the way you stand, okay? A lot of that can affect how others perceive you. Another way is thinking about gray man theory is with job interviews. And with job interviews, that's gray man theory if you're doing it right. You are affecting that person who's interviewing you, you're affecting their perception of you. And it's not just in the way you dress, it's your tone of voice, your mannerisms, the way you answer questions, what you say, how you say it. All of those things are included in gray man theory. And in the United States, we're going to go over today how gray man theory affects us on a day-to-day. And really the biggest way is by interactions with authority figures. The next big example that I'll give you guys as far as interactions go is interactions with criminals and interactions with predators. And this is a very unfortunate example that we have, but it is something that you have to think about. And interactions with criminals could go in a lot of different ways, but the main way that I'm going to show it is in interactions with predators, predatory criminals. And you have to look at predatory criminals as criminals of opportunity. They follow the same rules and laws that we see in the animal kingdom. And they prey on the weak, they prey on targets of opportunity. So as individuals, we can make ourselves what we call hard targets, and we can do a lot to prevent bad things happening to us simply by the way that we look and present ourselves. All right, guys, we're at the next stop. We are basically about to show you how to completely change your appearance. One of the easiest ways to do so. Comment below if you think you know where we're at and how we're about to do this. We're checking in at a thrift store. We're here at a thrift store and we're basically gonna do a little filming here, and we're gonna show you guys some of what you can do as far as changing your appearance and how that goes. So we've picked out some outfits, and these outfits are actually really strategically planned, and we're gonna go a little further with it. But the first thing to remember, guys, is control the variables that you can control, and don't try and change the things that you can't control. So you don't want to get crazy into, like, you know, all kind of fake disguises and like over the top, you know, paint on anything, or, you know, really kind of movie theater makeup or anything too intense, because it's going to have the opposite of the desired effect. You want to just try and do the absolute minimum and control the things you can absolutely control, and then go from there. So I'll get into what we mean more about that as well. But just remember, the first thing is control what you can control, and don't try and change things that you don't have 100% control over, and don't do anything drastic that you're not comfortable with and that you can't do a good job with. And the next thing is to know your local culture and customs of where you're at, because if you're gonna affect the opinions or influence the actions or thoughts of others around you based on how you look, then you have to know what the local cultures and customs are. You have to have your role in your mind of what you're picking and what you're looking for, and why you're picking what you're picking, where you're gonna go, all of that stuff, where you're at, all of your transitions. And we're gonna show you something really interesting about not just why we chose these clothes that we chose, but why we chose the colors, even all the way down to the colors of the type of clothes, to affect where we are in the United States and to allow us to transition through the most possible areas. We're actually gonna go from urban to rural. We'll show you rural at the end of this video, possibly in another video, the full rural, but we'll show you rural, and we're gonna go from urban to rural in the transition. And these clothes that we just found today for like $5 an item or an article are gonna allow us to transition and make that transition possible and be able to have the desired effect in both urban and rural environments. Okay, whether a bug out situation has occurred for you, any kind of rioting, looting, natural disaster, you're in a bad situation, we're gonna go through all of the things that you can control, okay? There's a lot of things about the way you present yourself to the world out there that you can control, and in turn, that controls others' perception and the way they treat you, okay? And that's the true gray man theory. Some of the things that you can control are the things that you have on you at all times, or EDC items, and that's why that's such a popular topic, everyday carry. And rightfully so, because if something does happen, or any kind of a situation, you know, if you need a wrench or a screwdriver, it's nice to have one. So it's just the same with anything. And something to remember is that a skill set is a tool that can't be taken away, okay? So it's like always having that screwdriver even when you don't have anything. So just something to remember there with training and skill set. We're gonna get into bushcraft a little bit in this video and in some future videos as well. We've got martial arts. We both have a base of physical fitness where we're in shape, we can do things. We have mental training, we keep ourselves knowledgeable, and we try to be as centered as possible across the board and all things, and that's really what we are as students of life at the end of the day, all of us as human beings. When it comes to physical appearance, we can control hair, and as you can see here, my friend has completely changed her physical appearance, and you may not even think, and you really wouldn't, if you saw her 10 minutes ago and now you saw her, you probably wouldn't recognize her. Go ahead and do a little spin around, and you can see what she looks like right now is just really just a completely different person. And I do as well. I look completely different from how I looked earlier. And we went to a thrift store and we just walked in and we bought some stuff and we got it and we changed our physical appearance. And there's some real specifics as to why we chose what we chose, okay? So one of those things is hair. You can change your facial structure. 5 points of recognition on your face is one of the things that police use, or Facebook uses now. Anything, your phone, some phones have an unlock screen where they use 5-point facial recognition software. Okay, one of the ways that you can avoid that is a beard, glasses, a hat, or ways that you can kind of get away from that. Doesn't completely defeat it, but our minds actually work the same way, and we use symmetry and different points of recognition. And when we look at somebody, it's the same way that we judge beauty. It's the same way we use our mind recognizes things, and our memory and our recall works. So I now have, I bought a 99-cent pair of glasses, and that's how we can change some of that structure, and I pop the lenses out. And if I'm moving and shaking and just walking through and you just kind of browse past me, you're probably not going to think too much about the fact that I don't have lenses in my glasses. Maybe a lot of you guys, be honest, comment below if you didn't even notice that there was no lenses in my glasses. There's some of you that are watching this point, 100% guaranteed, that didn't notice it till I said that. So one of those things, you know, something a lot of people will pick up on, but it's also something some won't. One of the things that's trying to control something you can't control, or going over the top, and something that I warn against, don't do this, guys. And that's what I'm saying, like wearing sunglasses indoors, that draws more attention, okay? It's not about drawing more attention necessarily, unless it's wanted attention. But you don't want people speculating as to why you have sunglasses on inside or at night. So that's not always a good option, sunglasses, but you can pop the lenses out, okay? A hat, you know, changes the structure. Something else is fashion accessories. We're talking about predator versus prey and predator mentality in criminals. If you have a lot of fashion accessories or expensive items or jewelry, that makes you a target, okay? And depending on whether you're a hard target or soft target on other variations, whether you look like you might be easy to rob, that might be putting yourself out there for getting robbed. So that's something to think about. We're not wearing any jewelry really at all. She's wearing a stainless steel necklace that's very nice, but there's a reason for that. And why don't you do another spin? I'll do another spin here. None of us are printing with anything that we're carrying right now. We you know, but both of us are actually pretty loaded out with weapons. So you can see that we both have the EDC Kank neck knife on. Okay, we're both wearing a neck knife. She's got two neck knives, actually. She's got the EDC Kank, which can also be worn in IWB inside the waistband configuration. I have a karambit blade here, okay, that can also be worn here and is in a leather sheath. This is the karambit right here, as you can see. There's several videos on the karambit on the website as well, as on the website and on YouTube. This is the bone opener multi-tool, okay, bone opener multi-tool right there. The EDC Kanks I make all by hand. All right, so we've got some good defense items. Some other things that you can carry, and we're talking about EDC, having on your person. One of the tomahawks, for example, you could have this in an EDC backpack or bag that you carry. And when you get out into some more rural stuff, some of these things, you don't need them on your person, because it's not something that you may necessarily need until you get from that, you know, complete transition from the urban to the rural. So when you get out of the city and then you need to start doing some bushcraft chores, you can start using your bushcraft tools. And if you have a backpack with you where you have some bushcraft tools, a large blade is one of the most important things that you can have out in the woods. We're going to get into the more bushcraft stuff, like I said, as well. So concealed weapons being something you can definitely have on your person. A few other things that people don't often think about is mannerisms. So you can actually change your mannerisms in the way you talk. I can stand a little differently. I can use less body language than I use. I can lower my voice and I can start to talk like this, and I can hunch my shoulders a little bit.
if I were to talk to you like this, then you would think something completely different, and I would present a completely different if I was very quiet.
Or if I'm really loud and over the top, then using my hands like I normally do when I talk, moving around, then obviously that's two completely different things. Walking, your gait can actually be, gait is the way that you walk, and the stride length and stride rate and all of those things can actually be a giveaway to a person. So can you mentally change your gait? It's very difficult to do. Some people can do that, but one of the ways that you can do it is to put like a thumbtack in your shoe or file down something a little bit painful that when you step, it kind of gives you a limp. You don't have to think about that limp because now you've got a natural stimulus to continue that limp. So there's different ways, you know, different things of that nature. You have to change people, places, and things, obviously. The places you go, you've got to get rid of all of your electronic devices. You get a burner phone, do that. Don't log into social media. If you're interested in more on that, check out my survival, escape, and evasion series. I've got more videos coming on that, as well as I've got a survival, escape, and evasion video already up. So lots of information on there. But now we just talked a little bit about what you can do to change your physical appearance. We talked about now that you can change your speech patterns, the way that you walk. You can change even your movement patterns and your mannerisms, okay? There's a lot you can change, and all of those little small things that you can change add up to a big, major effect. So from here on out, we're going to be getting into some really more advanced transitioning, and see you then. So we've talked a little bit about various bug out scenarios and why you guys might want to have a plan to, you know, maybe change environments or change situations when there's a bad situation, when stuff hits the fan, so to speak. And now we've used greyman theory to get out of the city, and we're out here in the country, as you can see. And one of the reasons that you would want to get out to the country or to what we're calling a rural environment versus an urban environment is to really just maybe wait till whatever is happening calms down, whether it's political, climate change, or, you know, social unrest, any kind of a thing that might occur along those lines. And so now we're out here in the country, and, you know, the rules change. It turns 180 degrees. It's just a complete, absolute change. And now we're going to talk about how things change when you've made it out to the country and when you've got to that rural environment where there's not a lot of people around, and everything just flips and the whole script changes.